much can you make working from home as a Pinterest manager? And who actually hires Pinterest managers? Or is it one of those careers that is actually too good to be true? That's exactly what I'm going to break down for you in today's episode. I'm Emily Bales. I'm a former teacher turned Pinterest marketing and ad strategist. And for over 4 years now, I've helped my clients and my students increase their traffic and turn it into profit through the power of Pinterest marketing. So what I just mentioned as far as how much you can make, that earning potential, and then who hires Pinterest managers, these are some of the top questions I'm getting asked by aspiring Pinterest managers. So I have really started sharing more about how I can help women get started with their Pinterest management business, and I'm getting some really great questions, but there's obviously a lot of apprehension that comes with that. Let's just address the elephant in the room. There is so much noise on the internet right now as far as different ways that you can work from home. Now, a lot of them are legitimate and some of them are not so legitimate. And there are things out there that are truly scams, which is really unfortunate. But like I mentioned, I really want you to guard yourself. And when I have people come to me feeling apprehensive, that is a way of protecting yourself and really what you are investing your time and energy in. So I encourage you to continue to have that guard up in some way so that you can protect yourself, but also be open to exploring options because there are a lot of really wonderful courses and programs out there that truly can help you learn how to make a living from home. So what I'm sharing with you today is more about Pinterest management. And I started an academy called the Pinterest Manager Academy, and that is my way of helping women start their Pinterest management business. And since I've been a Pinterest manager for over 4 years now, I have a little experience in the area. Now, what I was saying about the different options as far as working from home, we live in this really amazing time where there are a lot of different ways that we can work from home now, and we have that power to learn more about those options and really educate ourselves all through the internet. But like I said, there are things that are too good to be true and they aren't really legitimate. So one thing that I like to share with people who are interested in becoming a Pinterest manager, first and foremost, is it's not something that when you start your business, you are going to be making all this money overnight. I ask people to join my academy who are committed to starting a serious business and they are invested in building up that business, and it's something that they are not just looking to as a side hustle, whereas it might start as a side hustle, but ultimately something that could actually replace their 9-to-5 and really be their entire or main source of income. So those are the type of women that I want to attract to my academy, the people who are action takers and they are committed to that journey. Because when they are committed, they are not going to easily give up when the going gets tough. And one thing that I want to encourage you to listen to is that intuition when you are looking at different options online and ways that you can work from home. And I think that we all have this intuition and this gut instinct about what is legitimate, what feels right to us, because there are options out there that are completely legitimate, but for whatever reason, they feel misaligned with our values, our goals, and how we feel comfortable showing up. One thing that I think is really attractive to people with Pinterest management is that you don't necessarily have to have this huge presence on social media in order to start a thriving service-based business. And I say that because I didn't. Now, I'm not saying that it can't be extremely beneficial and that you'll ultimately get more visibility and leads and clients if you're in social media, but it's not a requirement. And I find that to a lot of women, that's kind of a breath of fresh air. They don't want to have to be all over the internet and pushing and pushing and pushing. Now, like I said, that this is for something down the road, especially for people who've already started their Pinterest management business. I do think it can be helpful to really showcase your work, your reviews, feedback from clients, all of those things through social media. And I would not be a good teacher if I was telling you that you shouldn't use social media. I think that would be misguided as well. But especially in the beginning, if you're not comfortable in showing up that way, you actually don't have to. So when I first started my Pinterest management business, I actually really did not get serious about social media, even reserving a handle on Instagram or anything like that until I had my business for 2 years. And in the beginning, because I got clients so quickly, it really took all of my time and energy to focus on my client accounts and getting them results. And because I had fully replaced my teaching income and actually 2x, 3x, and ultimately 4x'd it, I really didn't need to worry about being on social media. I was making great money and it was wonderful. But when I decided to really up my social media game and really create that presence was when I did start creating courses, digital products, and things like that. Now, I'm not just here to talk to you about social media, but where I'm going with all of this is the fact that you can make very legitimate money from home as a Pinterest manager. And we're going to talk about that earning potential, but then also who actually hires Pinterest managers. But I felt like it was going to be misleading if I didn't give you a little bit of backstory with what your options are right now, what feels right to you, and learning more. So if you feel that becoming a Pinterest manager does feel aligned with you and it feels more aligned than some of those other options out there on the internet, I want to encourage you to continue to listen to this episode and also subscribe to my channel, because I am always giving Pinterest marketing tips, advice, and also things that are explicitly for Pinterest managers and aspiring Pinterest managers. And I do have my Pinterest Manager Academy, but a step before that would be to just simply sign up for my next Pinterest training that's titled How to Make 5K Monthly as a Pinterest Manager. That will be linked in this video, so be sure to check that out and then just subscribe to my channel so that you aren't missing these episodes. Okay, so now back to that earning potential, because I am sure that you are dying to learn more about what this looks like and if it can really be a legitimate career, because we've all heard of side hustles, but I like to encourage women to explore Pinterest management, attend my training, and really think about it as a new career and not a side hustle. Feels like something in addition to your 9 to 5, something that brings in extra income, especially if you're planning for a vacation or you need to supplement because kids' sports are really expensive. But to me, a side hustle feels not as serious. And when you're starting a service-based business, it is serious. It's going to take work and it's going to take effort, but it can be extremely profitable as well. And it can support you. It can support you through big life events. One thing that's huge for me that I like to share with women is that I actually started my freelance business when I had an 8-month-old baby. And since then, I've had 2 more children. And throughout this entire journey, I have never not had a client. So I was able to make the freelance business work for me and all of the different seasons of life I have gone through, which to me is really incredible. So in the beginning, I was, like I said, a former teacher. And if you want to hear my full story, I mentioned that I do have another YouTube episode about becoming a Pinterest manager, and it really breaks down my entire story and how I got started. So I would love for you to watch that other episode. But I was starting that freelance journey coming from the classroom. So I had been a 2nd grade teacher, and long story short, I was making around $1,800 a month, just full transparency. After I did the taxes and I looked at how much I was making hourly, it was around $11.40 an hour, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me. And I graduated from Purdue University. I have my degree, a bachelor's degree in education, and that's what it was. That's how much I was making. And so, and one other thing that I have to mention about that, I actually had a school year that was 2 weeks longer than the average teacher as well, because I taught at a charter school. So that was something else that was factored in there as well. So I digress. Where I'm going with all this is, in the beginning, when I started my Pinterest manager business, I actually just wanted to replace my teaching salary. I know, not that hard to do, right? Not a ton of money. But here is the thing that I want you to look at and think about that is really encouraging. Even though to think about making less than $2,000 a month maybe doesn't sound like a huge feat, once you actually get started, you land that first client, it is really starting this momentum in a positive, obviously, direction. And once I started that momentum, I thought it sounded insane to make $5,000 a month as any type of freelancer. Social media manager, virtual assistant, Pinterest manager is one of those things that I just couldn't conceptualize. I'm like, I will never get there, because when I started my business, I went from virtual assistant to social media manager to Pinterest manager. So that pivot from virtual assistant to social media manager allowed me to really increase what I was charging because I was specializing in one service. Then I went from social media manager to Pinterest manager. And once again, it was, I would say, a very comparable pivot because you're still focusing in one area in particular. But I learned that when you specialize in one area of service, you can charge more because you are an expert in that area. Or if you're just getting started, you're obviously, there's going to be a little bit of learning, but you are only focusing on that one area, and it's easier to learn that specific skill much faster and then become that expert that you want to position yourself as. So I will say in the beginning, I used Facebook groups to get that first Pinterest management client. And then it just started this really great trajectory as far as getting referrals and testimonials, then putting work in my portfolio. And from there though, I had taken a step back because as a social media manager, after having done that for a year, I believe I was up to like $3,500 or $4,000 a month, which was amazing for me after having been working over, I say full-time hours because I was working more than 40 hours a week when I was teaching. I was working like 50 or sometimes even more than that on a weekly basis. So to be working part-time and making that type of money was just, it was crazy for me. So I had to take some steps back when I decided to pivot to Pinterest management, and I kind of had to essentially revamp my packages. So I started, because I had no experience, I didn't know of any courses, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was able to work with one of my current social media clients, and she let me experiment with her Pinterest account, and I learned a lot through just doing, but it was $200 a month. So I quickly went from $200 a month to $350 a month as far as my Pinterest management packages went. Now I will say the students in my academy, they're typically charging anywhere as a beginner and landing clients anywhere from $450 to $600. There's a lot of different schools of thought, but I teach my students that part of pricing your packages, and I go through this in my academy as far as breaking down the math and feeling confident in your pricing and understanding where you're coming up with that number. But typically they are charging anywhere from $450 to $600. So when you think about that, you're thinking about earning potential as a beginning Pinterest manager. If I wanted to be replacing my teaching salary and not just a side hustle, right? We're thinking about this as a new career. I needed to be making at least $1,800. So if you were in my position and you started, let's say on the lowest end, $450 a month, 2 clients at $450 would be $900. So 900 times 2 is $1,800. So I would need 4 clients in order to fully replace that teaching salary. So for me, it was a little hard in the beginning because I was so nervous about finding clients. And I would say that that is one of the biggest fears and concerns for the people who are exploring joining my Pinterest Manager Academy, which will segue right into who actually hires Pinterest managers, and is it legit or is it some obscure thing that people don't actually need? So that's what I want to break down a little bit more. During my trainings that I do on how to make $5K monthly as a Pinterest manager, I do cover this a little bit. So I'll just give you an abbreviated version of this, but essentially any business that has an online presence especially should be on Pinterest. So there, when you think about that, e-commerce, Etsy sellers, teachers pay teachers sellers, service-based business, course creators, online coaches, there are so many different types of businesses that even if they're not on Pinterest, they should be on Pinterest. And as an aspiring Pinterest manager, that gives you leverage to reach out to potential businesses and say,
hey, you could really benefit from Pinterest. I would love to help you get started.
So that is a strategy I really love to lean into with my students. But then also a tip I like to provide for people who are just obviously here to learn from me is cold pitching is really powerful. And go and look, you could look on Pinterest to see if they already have a Pinterest presence. You could look on Instagram or TikTok, some of your favorite social media platforms. I recommend doing this. Just go look at some of your favorite brands that you're already following, see if they have a presence on Pinterest, and if not, guess what? You could reach out to them and say, hey, I would love to chat with you and help you get started on Pinterest. So as far as finding clients and do people pay for this? Absolutely. And one thing I want to mention about businesses paying for a Pinterest manager is that Pinterest is a very different platform than social media. It's honestly not as intuitive because, we're posting and using social media regularly for our personal lives, right? If you're on Instagram, at some point you have probably posted something. So it takes a little of the fear out of it because you already have a handle slightly on how to actually, post on the platform. Now with Pinterest, if you are not marketing on the platform, you probably have no idea how to create a pin. You, I'm sure, don't have a business account. And there is a little bit more of intimidation because it is just a very different platform. And like I said, it's maybe not as intuitive for that reason because you're not regularly creating on it. You're just consuming. Whereas on social media, we're typically consuming and creating, even if it's for our personal lives. So as a business owner, a lot of times, even if a business owner has either already set up their Pinterest account or maybe even marketing on it, but realizing that they don't have time or they're not really getting the results that they want to, they need to hire a Pinterest manager. For example, brands like Lush, Target, Peloton, Amazon, they are all marketing on Pinterest. Huge businesses, but then there are a lot of really small businesses as well. I market my own business on Pinterest. I drive traffic to my website, and because Pinterest pins send traffic to my website, ultimately I can get people in my sphere or my realm, and in some capacity they eventually will most likely buy from me. So it kind of helps you get an overview or an understanding of why a business would want to market on Pinterest. And like I said, if somebody has any type of online business, then they should be on Pinterest. So you can see that even if you don't find that a brand is actively looking to hire a Pinterest manager, that doesn't mean you can't reach out to them. So I am really huge on cold pitching. And as far as finding clients, it seems really big and scary. And then what I had, because I felt that way, I was you. If you feel like it sounds like impossible to find somebody that would actually pay you to market on Pinterest, I was there too. So I'm not trying to poo-poo that. I get that feeling. But once I got that first client and I told you that it started kind of snowballing this success and this positive trajectory, it honestly became a little overwhelming because then I'd have people referring to me. I'd wake up and I'd have discovery calls booked, and it was a good problem. I was becoming overbooked. And at one point I had, working just by myself, I was always very much so, I was nervous to outsource, and I've gotten over that fear, but in the beginning I was really nervous to outsource. And so I did everything myself. I was wearing all of the hats. And when I had 18 or 19 clients, I was way overbooked. And it was a good problem. And at that point, I was making anywhere from $11,000 to $13,000 a month. And it was essentially all profit. So I hope you found this helpful and really insightful if you have been considering starting your Pinterest management business or becoming a freelancer. There's one last parting thought I want to leave you with. Even if you don't remain a Pinterest manager for the next 20 or 30 years or retire as a Pinterest manager, I want you to just think about, what if you took that first step towards changing your career, starting the business? It could open your eyes and it could open so many doors in the future as far as just owning your own business. Now, what I'm doing as far as selling digital products, and I do have a Pinterest course, I've added on these different aspects to my business, and none of that would have been possible if I just wouldn't have gotten started in the beginning. The hardest part was just getting started and taking that plunge as, a small business owner. So I really want to encourage you to think about it from that frame, that even if you don't stay a Pinterest manager for the rest of your life, just ask yourself, is taking this one step, is laying this first brick towards building, an entire home? Obviously, this is an analogy here, but think about it that way. Is it going to get you closer or further from where you want to go? Because right now, if your current career isn't serving you and what you want your day-to-day life to look like, then you have to make some change. It's, Einstein's definition of insanity, to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So even think about it that way. Is becoming a Pinterest manager, even if I don't do it for the rest of my life, is it going to get me closer or further from where I ultimately ultimately want to go. So I encourage you to really sit with that and think about it from that frame as well. So like I said, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments what questions you have and what you're thinking as far as becoming a Pinterest manager. And I can't wait to see you soon in next week's episode. Bye for now, friends.